Now, just announced today, March the 4th, is the Redmi Note 10 Pro here. And I've been lucky enough to have had some time on with this phone, 1 week now using it as my main phone, and it truly is a fantastic offering here from Redmi. So much spec on offer for a very, very good price. So we've got the Snapdragon 732G, 6GB of RAM, 128GB of UFS storage, a large 5020 mAh battery, 33 watt fast charging, and in this review I will tell you exactly the charge times you can expect, battery life you can expect out of this, the performance, and of course the camera too on this one, which is 108 megapixels. This is a very decent camera. It's the Samsung HMX, which we've seen in flagship phones from Xiaomi. This one's just missing the optical image stabilization. And then of course the screen, this one has a fantastic screen in it. So it's AMOLED, 120 Hz refresh rate, very bright, vivid, flat AMOLED screen, so no curvature to it at all. And in this in-depth review, you will see why I like this phone so much. In the box of the Note 10 Pro here, you will find a USB cable. So this is a typical Xiaomi cable, so Type C to Type A. We have our charger. Now this one is 33 watts maximum EU plug here for me with this particular version that Xiaomi sent out to me to review. Charge time is approximately 70 minutes and I will give you the exact charge time in this video. And then we do get a SIM tray tool and we have a little bit of paperwork there, user guide, warranty card, and a clear TPU case. This is a high quality one, of course, from the brand. And I will show you shortly what it looks like with the phone in the case. So the build quality of this phone, it feels nice in hand. It is reasonably light because we've seen a lot of phones over 200 grams, and this is only 196 grams thanks to the plastic frame it has on it around the outside here. So no antenna lines. We have about approximately 8 millimeters just over with the thickness right here, but with the camera bulge that brings it up to 11. Always on capacitive power button / fingerprint reader, volume up and down here, has a good feel to it. It doesn't rattle around and very easy to get access to this always on fingerprint reader there. Just holding it here, you can see that when I put my thumb there, it unlocks and it's quick. It's normally around about 1 to 2 seconds, and I have found it to be really accurate for me. No problems. It just seems to work 10 out of 10 times. It's a great weight, good size to it, good feel, and the build and finish is excellent on this. So we have a 6.67 inch AMOLED screen here with 120 Hz refresh rate. Very good screen, and I'll get onto it in a little bit of detail. So right here we have a little tiny hole cut out for that front facing 16 megapixel f2.4 camera there. And you can see it does have this silver ring around it. Now I really wish that Xiaomi didn't do this. It draws more attention to it, makes it stand out. As you can see when I turn it off, a little bit of an eyesore, and that is exactly what Samsung did with the S20 FE that I've also reviewed in the channel. So Gorilla Glass 5 here on the back, and on the front too. It's a pre-applied screen protector that you get with it. Our SIM tray is on the upper left. As you can see, it has a gasket around it, takes 2 Nano SIMs and a MicroSD card. And then our cameras. So the main camera is that Samsung HMX, which is the 108 megapixel camera, f1.9 aperture. And then right here we have a 5 megapixel macro. This one has an aperture of f2.4. And then an ultra wide right here, which is 8 megapixels f2.2, and then a 2 megapixel, which is for depth information. And here is what it looks like in the case, the phone here. So very good case because there's a raised lip for the camera so you don't damage it. Covers the volume button. This of course is open for our fingerprint unlocking. And they've gone as far to give us a tiny little flap here to cover that Type-C port to stop it filling up full of dust and rubbish. And then up the top, we've got the perfect cutouts as well there for the speaker and then for our earpiece too, which is right here. So for the price point, we have an absolute stunner of a screen here from Xiaomi, and I really mean it. They've gone with such a good panel, 120 Hz, but it's AMOLED, and it has a very good touch response rate. I've had no issues with it at all. It seems to just be so smooth and flawless, detecting all touch input, even with the pre-applied screen protector it came with. So looking at our settings here, I'll just show you a few things we do have options under display that I think a lot of people would be interested in. Dark mode there, of course, you can schedule that. We've got our reading mode, color scheme as well, so you can adjust this to your own preference. I actually prefer standard, but I have it on auto at the moment. And you can see this little widget here. So what I'm doing is taking a look at the refresh rate, currently 120 Hertz. And that's also the temperature there, just to monitor this. So the refresh rate can be changed manually to 60 if you want to save on battery life. And you'll see later on in this review that it actually gives you a huge boost with the battery performance there. And it's just an amazing display here too, because the brightness is very, very good, almost 800 nits. So for the price point of this phone, we have a flagship grade top tier panel that is in this. It really is that good. So you can see here at the 790 nits, you can make it out perfectly in direct sunlight without any problems at all. So the screen does not have DC dimming. That's one thing it is missing that a lot of flagships may actually have, like the Mi 11. The Mi 11 has DC dimming. There is also a sunlight mode here that you can set onto if you're going to be out in the light. That will help boost it as well with the contrast and then the brightness boost too that it gives. So I've been using the phone, of course, as my main phone for over a week now, and it has been really good. It's been excellent, the experience of the UI. So very fast and fluid, as you'd expect, 120 Hertz. I'm monitoring here again. So in certain applications, it will be 60, depends. It will choose, okay? So it's not going to be running at 120 frames per second if it doesn't need it, but the UI needs it to make it fluid and smooth. So when you trigger the gestures, no problems with them either, by the way. It is fast, and swapping over to your various different apps, again, no issues with that. Now, a lot of people do ask me about the phone dialer. It's the Chinese ROMs that let us record, but this one does not let us do any recording at all, okay? So you just got your normal dialer right there, and that dialer is only running at 60, and I can even see that difference when you do run that. So when you swap over to your different apps, you can occasionally see a little bit of lag if you have a game running in the background. The Snapdragon 732 is not a bad chip at all, the 732G, and some people could be disappointed it didn't get the 765 with the 5G support. I myself aren't, because that keeps the price down, and I have no issues with getting onto 4G Plus and 4G with good speeds too, which I will show you later on. Now, the Task Manager will kill things off quite quickly, I've noticed, as part of its battery saving. So if I have something that I haven't run for a while, if it's a non-system app, then I go to load it will often reload. For example, Display Tester has to reload already, and I've only had that in the background for literally just 5 minutes or so. So it's just how it is with Xiaomi, but you get excellent battery life as a result, which I will show you now. Just before I get onto that, the standby power consumption is great. So I charged it to 100% and just left it. 6 hours and almost 30 minutes. I only lost 2% battery, and that was the cell standby. Really, really good result there. So the battery life, if you run the screen at 60 Hertz, is really good. Amazing from that 5,000 milliamp hour battery that it just goes and goes and goes. And if you run it at 120 Hertz, which I highly recommend you, after all, you're paying for that, then it still gets a very impressive 11 hours and 20 minutes. Now, in theory, this is probably around about 8 to 9 hours of on-screen time max. And this was, of course, with the brightness at 200 nits. If you use a lower brightness, you will get more battery life. Higher, you will lose more, of course. And what about the 4G speed? So I tested them out here at my house, which tends to be a little bit slow at times. And actually a very good result. Very, very good. That's just as fast as 4G if I had that, or do have that on my Fold 2 or flagship phones. So really good there. Now the wireless is not at flagship levels. Wireless speeds will cap out at 200 megabits per second. That is a restriction with the chipset, and the signal strength and reception at the lower point here was very good, and happy with those speeds. If they're over 100, I'm happy, and they're 133 here, which is really quite good for the spec of this phone and the price. Charge time. So you're looking at exactly from 5% to 100, 73 minutes with the 33 watt fast charging for this battery. So not bad. That is really quick. That's good for such a large battery too there as well. And to get there, you can see 30 minutes, you get 58%. Not bad at all too. And 19 minutes, I was already at 41%. So it is a really, really quick charger there too. GPS is working well within the restrictions we have with Qualcomm chips. They can't go any lower than the 3 meters of accuracy here. With the MediaTek ones, the new ones, they get up to 1. They're only 1 meter of accuracy. We do have Camera 2 API support level 3, which is great. So look later for those Gcam ports if you want a different camera quality and just different color science and everything like that. Widevine level 1 security level, of course, that's here. So that will be Netflix in Full HD and Amazon Prime Video, which is good. And then the internal storage here. So not too bad at all. These speeds here, you can see sequential reads, writes, and then the random reads and writes, they're good. No complaints. They will not be bottlenecking the Snapdragon 732G, which gets close to 290,000 here in Antutu, which is a good score. That is not bad at all for this chipset, mid-range chip. Okay, on to the things that I don't particularly like here. So when you install apps with the app installer, you get advertising. So yes, there is advertising in the global ROM here, and unfortunately that will pop up. You can see in the cleaning app as well, another system app, it will come up with WhatsApp and TikTok ads. That is unfortunate. And yes, a lot of bloatware. This is, well, typical Xiaomi really. We get about 20-something apps that I consider to be bloat, over a gigabyte's worth. But it doesn't take long at all to uninstall what you don't need. This is literally about 2 minutes going into the settings, into apps, and uninstall, and remove them all, which is what I did. So you can see there, that's all the apps we had. Yeah, you get it, the bloatware is there. And then free space, well, we get, with this particular model, 128 gigabytes. We have around 111 gigabytes free. And remember, there is MicroSD card support with this one. And onto our audio now. So we have the loudspeaker down the bottom and then the one at the top. And they are really of about equal volume. They do sound very, very good. And I'll give you a sample of them at 100% volume shortly. But what about the call quality? Call quality, good. No issues with the call quality at all on this particular phone. And yes, of course, we do have the 3.5mm support there and great sound quality. It's very clean. There's no static. And overall, a decent volume too as well to it. Just like these loudspeakers, which I'll now give you a sample of at 100% volume. Onto our gaming performance. So this title here is Genshin Impact. I have it on the lowest settings, but a medium resolution, just to make it look a little bit better. It doesn't tend to affect the performance too much. So there are a few lags and stutter with this game, as expected, because it's quite demanding. We've only got the 732G, remember, with the 6 gigabytes of RAM. So the frame rate here at the moment will be somewhere around in the, as you can see, right now it's about 45, 46, but in the mid-40s most of the time. It dips down to about 30 at some points, and you can see a little bit of lag when that does happen, just when there's a few monsters and things on screen, of course, is when that tends to happen, or you're using your spells. So what I'm going to do now is play this game for 1 hour. You can see currently 43 degrees. I will monitor the CPU temperatures and also the external temps, and we'll see just how hot, with a demanding game like this one, is the Note 10 Pro going to get. So the thermal seems to have plateaued. It doesn't really get any warmer. This internal temps of about 42 degrees C maximum. That's it, okay? And then when you look at the screen here on the front with my thermal imaging camera, that is getting up to 41 degrees there as well. And I'll just flip it over now and we'll take a look at the back, which is also warm, but these temperatures are very good. They're not bad at all. So we're looking at not even, maybe about 40, 39 there on the back. Okay, just reaching 40. So really, thermals on this phone are excellent. And this is after 1 hour of gaming. And I even put Genshin Impact on the highest settings just to try and get it really hot. And, well, it's not getting really hot. So that's great. Now onto our camera. So this is our front-facing 16 megapixel camera with an f2.4 aperture, 1080p video maximum here with electronic image stabilization. So my arm is not fully extended out. That would be about here now. And the crop of it doesn't seem too bad. Stability is good, and it's great that we do have the electronic image stabilization with 1080p with this particular phone here. Now the audio quality is just 96 kilobits per second, not the 320 that we have been seeing on the Redmi phones and the Xiaomi flagships at least. It seems that they're not doing it for the mid-range phones, which is a shame, and hopefully a firmware update will correct this. Let's take a look now at the rear camera video performance. So this rear camera is the Samsung HMX 108 megapixel sensor, and it does have a f1.9 lens. So you might have picked up and noticed that we do not have any electronic image stabilization with 4K 30 footage. So there's no 4K 60 option, it's just 4K 30. And if you want the electronic image stabilization, you have to use just 1080p in order to get it there. So as I pan around, doesn't seem to be any judder coming through noticeable. It's just the lack of that electronic image stabilization I hope is going to be added in future firmware updates. And this is the ultra-wide camera now, which is that 8 megapixel one, f2.2. So only 1080p 30 frames per second is what we're allowed to shoot with this. No 60 frames per second option, but at least it does have electronic image stabilization, as you can see, which does actually work quite well as I walk ahead. A short jog, you can see that the stability is reasonably good. Alright, so don't just take my word for it. I'm sure there's a lot of hype behind this phone, and for good reason. This is a solid offering from Redmi. It is an excellent mobile phone. Battery life is there, very, very good. You can get over about 10 hours of screen on time with this one, depending on your brightness. 120 Hz screen. This screen is flagship grade. If it had DC dimming, I would go as far and say it is a flagship screen, but still, the brightness is really good. Over or around 800 nits is excellent. It charges in 1 hour and 10 minutes, which is another positive there. The performance from the chipset is decent. The ROM is fast, it's smooth, it is fluid. And the photo quality, 108 megapixel, it can take also some very decent night photos. I'm seeing photos that could almost be flagship grade with some of the night shots. Now, it doesn't have any optical image stabilization, so you do need to hold it very, very still for those night photos. Otherwise, a little bit of blurring could come into it. So it's not all amazing and positive when we take a look at the video quality, however. So 4K is sharp, it's detailed. However, there's no electronic image stabilization at the time of this video. I hope a firmware update will add and address this, and also address the audio bitrate, which is rather low. 96 kilobits per second, scratchy, flat sounding audio does need to be tweaked there. So I believe with a firmware update, Xiaomi could set the bitrate higher, of course, and improve our audio quality. There's also the topic that has been definitely debated quite a lot, and that is the advertising in the ROM. It's still present, and we do get a lot of bloatware. Apart from that, this phone, the Redmi Note 10 Pro here, is a highly recommended mid-range phone for those of you out there that don't demand the absolute best for gaming performance, but still decent performance, good battery runtime, and everything I've covered. It really is a no-brainer to go for this phone here. And no, it's not just because I was sent this phone to review. It's a fact there, and I'm sure all the other reviews out there will be highly positive of this model here. So if you want to see more photo samples and more info on the video quality you can expect, I do have a camera review. It's a separate video of the Redmi Note 10 Pro here. And do subscribe to my channel for more up-and-coming videos. Thank you so much for watching.